Guys, a few words about the last video, for which I received a lot of negative comments and replies. Firstly, the word peace acts as a trigger for me. Apparently, we will not find common ground on this issue. I sincerely wish you not to find yourself in a situation where you begin to understand my motives. Secondly, sooner or later I will ask you two questions, because any war ends in negotiations. The first question is, why can Russia be trusted now? And secondly, are you satisfied with the price for this now? We close this topic and return to the situation at the front. The 644th day of the war between Russia and Ukraine continues. Due to massive snowfalls, the intensity of hostilities decreased. At the same time, local skirmishes, shelling, and positional battles continue. Ground Forces spokesman Fedyo reports that bad weather is hampering the Russian army's advance in eastern Ukraine. Of course, the weather made its own adjustments to the course of hostilities. The Russians began to use less heavy equipment to attack Ukrainian positions, since it is almost impossible to advance on such soil. Accordingly, in those sectors of the front where there is a large distance between positions, the enemy used equipment to organize assaults. In particular, they brought up personnel, who were then thrown into assault operations. Now there are fewer such maneuvers from the occupiers due to deteriorating weather conditions, Fedyo said. However, the weather also interferes with Ukrainian logistics at the front line of defense. Our main task is for the weather to help us and, on the contrary, to hinder the enemy, Fedyo said. At the same time, over the past 24 hours, the Russians have significantly increased activity in the Tauride direction, but the Ukrainian armed forces are steadfastly holding the line near Avdiivka. This was reported by the commander of the direction Tarnavsky. During the day, Russia carried out 56 military clashes, carrying out 1,006 artillery shellings, 17 airstrikes, and 4 missile strikes. The Ukrainian armed forces managed to destroy 48 units of Russian equipment, mostly drones, the commander said. Meanwhile, fierce fighting continues in the Avdiivka industrial zone. The Russians have not completely taken it, but the situation there is very difficult. Apparently, it is actually lost. The fighting is essentially aimed at finally displacing the Ukrainian defenders from the enemy. Western experts claim that the Russians have taken over the industrial zone. In particular, Bild claims that the Ukrainian armed forces lost the Avdiivka industrial zone. The publication's expert Julian Rock writes that the Ukrainian army retreated from the 1st district of Avdiivka. Russian troops advanced about 1 kilometer deep into the city. Losing an industrial area can be especially painful. This is due to the fact that back in 2014, Ukraine created its advanced positions here and since then continued to expand them until recent events. Also, heavy fighting is taking place on the approaches to the Avdiivka Coke Plant and near Stepove. The Russians retreated from the outskirts of Stepove due to heavy fire from the Ukrainian armed forces. There is information about the advance of the Russians to the northwest of Krasnogorivka, that is, towards Novokalinovo. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian military says that the Russians near Avdiivka are using equally strong pressure tactics in all directions of the assault. There is a threat from everywhere. They adopt tactics where they hit one point and, without weakening the blows, hit another, said an officer of the 59th Brigade. At the same time, the Avdiivka Coke Plant is being shelled, according to him, continuously. Director Stepove, who serves in the 47th Brigade of the Ukrainian Army, which is now fighting near Avdiivka, believes that the situation with Bakhmut is being repeated in this city, but even worse. And at the same time he believes that the loss of Avdiivka will not be a problem. The Bakhmut ticks didn't work very well, and it took them 6 months, if not more. In Avdiivka, the ticks are already very strong. The 10-kilometer isthmus is still holding, but they, especially in the north, are moving forward and little by little. There are a couple more villages there, and that's it, the ticks will close, Stepove said. I don't see any big problems if we lose Avdiivka. We have already lost Bakhmut and lost a lot of things. The problem is not the territories, but the people we can lose if we defend ourselves incorrectly, Stepove said. Let's move on to the Bakhmut section. Today, the Russian Ministry of Defense announced the capture of the village of Khromove, west of Bakhmut. The battles for Khromove lasted from mid-spring. This settlement is located on the road from Bakhmut to Chasiv Yar, and the Wagner PMC tried to take it in order to cut off the supply of the Ukrainian army in the city. And in the last weeks of the battle for Bakhmut, the path through Khromove remained the only route, the road of life for the garrison of the Ukrainian army. The neighboring route through Ivanivsky was under constant fire. But the Russian PMC was never able to take the village, although the road from Bakhmut was already under fire control. From Khromove there is a direct road to Chasiv Yar, an important logistics center of the Ukrainian armed forces near Bakhmut. However, the Ukrainian military telegram channel Deep State denies the complete capture of the village, but confirms that the enemy controls part of it. The enemy has occupied part of Khromove. The information about complete control does not correspond to reality. Yesterday the Russians even reached the highway, but our artillery somewhat spoiled their plans, the resource writes. According to him, back in September, Russia intensified its offensive in the Berkhivka area, pushing Ukrainian troops away from the Berkhivka reservoir and the village itself. This affected the position of the Ukrainian armed forces near Khromove and has now relapsed. Friends, this channel exists solely thanks to your support. If you have the opportunity and desire to support the channel, I will be very grateful to you. Thank you very much and see you in the next video.